Hey guys, today our lesson is going to be about investigating the character traits of your characters that you were reading, those short stories that we started on Monday. And you're going to need your notebook with that information. Now, we've already passed out this list of character traits. You should have this list in your notebook. Should be glued in your notebook. Okay. If you do not, you need to see me and we can get another one. I will scan it in and put it on Schoology. Okay. So first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about our character traits. And we're going to start thinking deeply about our characters. Now, when I say think deeply about our characters, what do you guys think that means? If I say think deeply about your character, what do you think that means? Give you a few minutes to think about that. You can pause the video if you need to. Well, thinking deeply about your character is you are going to go into that short story, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, teach you how to go into the short story and look at the details in that story to figure out what traits are described for your character, okay? So here's some questions that you might want to think about as you're reading your story or writing or any of that. These are things that you can think about. In character development, if you're writing a short story, this would be helpful too. So, who is my character? Okay, who is your character? Describe the character traits. So, you're going to think about who the character is in your story. My character, since I'm analyzing the pod, and I can do this with both ends on, my character, since I am analyzing the pod, who is my character? Sorry for all the movement. All right, let's screw this up so we can see it all. All right. So my character, who is my character? Well, my character is Jesse Waring. How do I know that? Well, the story says so, correct? This is evidence, right? This is evidence in the story that tells me who my character is. Now, I talked about minor characters yesterday. We understand that Pete is a minor character, and his mom is a minor character. Jesse's mother is a minor character. And then his family are background characters. Okay? And we could argue that Pete may be also more of a background character. So that's what we're talking about. Pete is his cousin because, again, evidence shows that this is what the story says. Plain and simple. It's what the story says. Tell me what's in the story. You don't make things up. You're not, you can infer what, that means make a prediction about what the story is saying, but you have to find the literal evidence in the story to describe what you're talking about. And this is in the story. If you're reading nonfiction, you're looking at the article, you're looking for the literal words on the page. Okay? And when you cite it, that's what you pull from, the literal word. Okay? And we're going to talk a lot about citing evidence. So I've answered who my character is. And I've thought about, what did my character do in the story? We'll go through that in a minute. What is his or her motivation for doing it? How did the character feel while he or she did that? And how did the character change in the story, right? I have read this story so many times that I can tell you what the character traits are for Jesse. And your main thing right now is we're looking at the character traits of Jesse in the beginning of the story and the character traits Jesse has at the end of the story. I'm also going to talk about the character traits that Jesse may have already, right? These are his character traits that are built into him, that he is always a certain way, okay? All right, so I'm only asking you to probably pick 2 or 3 character traits that you've found for your character. I have found 4 in the first, paragraph here. I'm looking at this word right here. It's irritability. Irritability. Irritable. For example, Pete is irritable because he is droning on about saving dolphins. It's irritating, right? Irritable. So, Jesse is irritated. Okay? So, irritable, irritated. What word would, from our list here, may be similar to irritable? Well, I look here. Jesse is annoyed with Pete, right? He's annoyed because Pete is droning on. Where's the evidence for that? Where's the evidence that says, well, let's look. Even when they don't talk about him, let's see. Here's Mom. Mom says, can you go to the store for me? His mother was saying, we've run out of milk. That is, she added quickly, if you're not too tired. I want to make sure we visit Cape Cod Stranding Network. Pete was droning on. They have a hotline. They do great work. Here is what Jesse is thinking here, right? I noticed this first period. I have not noticed this before. Jesse, this is what he's thinking in his head, and it should be in quotation marks because this is what he's thinking in his head. But the author who wrote this chose to put it in italics, those slanted words. So now I can understand he's saying Pete was droning on, yada, yada, yada. This is what Jesse thinks. This further proves that he is annoyed with Pete. And then here's another thing he's thinking. Anything to get away from Pete's lectures and all these pitying eyes. This is what Jesse is thinking. So this is more evidence that shows me, first, the author tells me that Jesse is irritated. And then he is saying these things in his head or thinking them in his head. And that further proves to me this is the evidence, yada, 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 all of this. All right. Anything to get away from Pete's lectures and all these pitying eyes. So he's annoyed. Okay. This is, yes, he's probably angry and frustrated. But I would say the main thing is annoyed. He's annoyed. Okay. Annoyed. He's annoyed. at the family, Pete, everything, right? His whole situation. We know that he was in an accident, and he's probably annoyed about that, right? Okay. So I'm going to say one character trait for Jesse would be annoyed. He's annoyed. That's the major one, I think. Now we could go into it further. Here is what's called a flashback in here. And this doesn't have anything to do with his character trait right now, but this could point to his character traits, like he is always confident, ambitious, but right now he's annoyed. And I'm thinking also frustrated, because he's thinking about this accident, and he's frustrated with the fact that he's dwelling on it. He's dwelling on the fact that he may have lost an athletic scholarship. He was the star of the school soccer team. He's so frustrated that he leaves, or he passes the store from where he was supposed to go to. So he's frustrated. So I've got annoyed as the first one, and frustrated. Okay. Let's look down here also. Here is some evidence that says, what does this say? Felt. These days, Jesse always felt as if there was a tight, hard knot in his chest. Okay. Anxious, anxiety. He has anxiety. Because, have you ever felt that way? Can you imagine what that feels like? It's anxiety. He's got a tight, hard knot in his chest. So I'm thinking the three traits that I can definitively say is, at this point in the beginning of the story, I know I'm not spelling that. In the beginning, Jesse is annoyed, frustrated, and anxious. Why? Well, he's annoyed at his cousins. He's annoyed at his family. All of these things. He's annoyed. Yes, he may be feeling these other things, but I'm thinking annoyed is the biggest one. Okay. Here we see that he's frustrated. He's frustrated at the fact that he was in an accident, that this person hit him and fractured his legs, right? He's frustrated about that. He's frustrated that he was the star of the soccer team and now he's not. He could have been on an athletic scholarship. And then he is so frustrated to the point that he passes the store. He's got other things on his brain. The next thing is anxiety. He's anxious. Anxious because he felt as if there was a hard, tight knot in his chest. I have proven to you, I have given you evidence of the fact that Jesse was annoyed, frustrated, and anxious. That is how he was in the beginning. He's different in the end. How is he different in the end? Well, in the end, Jesse is relieved because he helps the dolphin. He's helpful. And he's satisfied. And all of this, he's satisfied because he limped back to his car, but he was grinning and he was happier than he had been in a long while. Okay. Guys, I want you to do this with your own short stories. Go and find the character traits, 2 or 3 in the beginning, 2 or 3 at the end, and find evidence.